Hi everyone, thank you so much for purchasing one of our wreath kits. I hope you're super excited about making them today. The first step that you'll need to do is to make sure that you've got a nice clean space to work in. Try and work somewhere that preferably doesn't have any carpet on the floor. It will get a bit messy. If you've got an apron, that would be really handy. You need a really good pair of scissors or garden secateurs. Get some Christmas tunes on, get a nice festive drink and get ready to go. The advantage of the video is that you can pause it at any time, rewatch it. You can do it in stages, so you can watch the first bit, pause it, create, and then continue with the video afterwards. Whichever way you want to do it is absolutely fine. You would have received a really big box. The first thing I would suggest is to find your 2 green wires. You actually only need 1, but we put 2 in there just in case, but they're definitely something that could easily get lost. So find these. If you can't find them, don't worry, we can use some other wire instead, but they will definitely be in there, so do have a good hunt for them and then put them to the side. You want to maybe put all of your foliage in one pile, your decorations in another. For this particular wreath, we've got some fruit slices, which we're not going to be putting on until right at the end, so they can go over with your wires. You will have your mossed frame wreath, and then you will have a little bundle here. So you can just open this up, and in here you will have your ribbon, which again we can put aside because we'll be putting that on right at the end. You will have a piece of string, which we'll use in a minute, and you'll have a very important wire. So we can just get rid of this and then we can begin. So the first step is to take your string and you're going to attach it to the top of your wreath frame, and this is just going to act as your hook for where you place it onto your door. So we're just going to tie it, and I would suggest doing it in a double knot. The weather's quite something at the moment. Then if you've got a door handle that you want to tie it onto, then leave these loose, or if you've got a little hook already, then you can just do another little knot at the top, and again I would suggest doing a double knot such as this, and then it's ready to go. You want to take your wire, this is called reel wire, and untangle it, and what we're going to do is we're going to attach it to the wreath frame. This is going to stay on here for quite a while. So the first thing to do is just to simply place the wire directly into the moss frame like so, and then go round a couple of times, pulling this really tight. If at any point you pull it so tight and you're super strong and it snaps, don't worry. All you need to do is reattach it in exactly the same way. So we're going to put that to the side for the moment. We're going to put our decorations over here as well. And then we're going to turn to the foliage. And this step is all about getting everything prepped before we start to attach everything to your frame. So you, in your box, will either have maybe 2 huge branches of blue spruce, or you might have 3 or 4 much smaller bits. This is plenty to go around the whole of the wreath frame. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we use every single little bit, not just the tops and the sides, which people tend to do, but even little bits like this can definitely be used. At the school, we really promote sustainability and making sure that we use everything and have as little waste as possible. So really we want you to try and do this as well at home. So to prep this, you need to just, with your scissors, take off all the little sections of the foliage and put it into a pile. With the tops like this, you can take the whole of it off, so you've got a section like that, but I wouldn't have anything any bigger than that. That size is absolutely fine. So what you should be left with is something like this. And if you have a compost, then that's ideal. You can just get rid of this because we won't be using it. But that is what we should have left, nothing else. So you want to prep all of your spruce and then just put it all into a pile. You should have some pine in your box. It might be already prepped, you might be lucky, or it might be a bit like this, and then you can just pull little bits off. This is quite a big bit. So I'm just going to pop it off like this, maybe see if we can use that a bit later on. But yes, you want to get them all prepped into nice little sprigs, as so. And then you should have 2 stems of eucalyptus. Depending, obviously, all eucalyptus, all different sprigs are completely different shapes, so you really have to judge it on your own. But looking at mine here, I am actually going to take this one off and make it into just that little sprig like this, and then I'm going to use this one by itself. I'm just going to take the stem down a bit, and I'm going to, this is quite long, so I'm going to take that one off like that, put that there, and then on one branch I've got three pieces, which is great. You'll also have some red dyed, this is actually dyed, so just be careful if you're wearing white, just be careful, because sometimes if it gets wet it can leave a little mark, but to be honest this is pretty good and it doesn't seem to be coming off at all, but just please bear that in mind. So with these you want to just take the little pieces off and get everything prepped, ready. If you want to pause the video now to get all of your foliage, then please do. I am just going to quickly pause the video and finish off prepping all my foliage, and then I'll show you how we do the decorations. Once you've prepped all of your foliage, I would say just put it to the side, and then you need to turn your attention to your decorations. So we have got Gypsophilia here. So you can take that, if you've got long stems, you can just trim them so that they're shorter, about this length is perfect. And then you want to take any kind of longer bits and you can just pull little sprigs off. So then from one branch we get 3 or 4 little bits. It's just so that we have more to sort of work with instead of adding one big clump to the wreath. With the bunny tails, again, just trim them so that they're shorter, about this length is fine. They don't all have to be the same length. It's quite nice to have sort of different heights. We've got 2 different types of Lemonian. So we have a sort of a lighter pinky lilac-y one, and then just a more purpley one as well. Again, break them up so that they're not all in one clump. So doing something like this is great. The Nigella pods, again, you just want to make sure that the stem is relatively short, and then you can just break them up as you see fit. The pepper berries are very delicate, so please do be careful. We can add them on as we go, or if they're particularly delicate, we can do it at the end, so I will show you both methods. Once you've got all of your decorations prepped, we are ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera so you won't see my face anymore. You'll just see my hands, and then you can start to create your wreath. So it takes about between 8 and 10 to go all the way around. So if you wanted to do that to create an ordered pattern, that's fine. I tend to sort of create as I go along, so I'm not going to do that, but if you want to, that's completely fine. When you first start, try and pick an easy bit of spruce. As I said at the beginning, we're going to use all the sections, even little bits like this are going to go on the wreath. But to start with, try and pick a relatively easy one. And something like this is fine. We want to take off the needles at the bottom. And then we're going to start to create. So I would very much recommend you not copying me completely. This is your own wreath and you can do whatever you want. So it's much better to just kind of be as creative as possible. And I always think that's when a festive drink can often help. But I'm just going to start to add in little bits like so. Remember that you have the fruit that you're going to pop in at the end. So you just need to be mindful of that as you're creating. I would not add any more than that. That's quite a full cluster. It's sort of the size of my hand. I've got quite small hands, but I would say that's absolutely enough. Now, it doesn't matter which way you add on, this way or that way, but whichever way you start, you must continue in the same direction. You can't chop and change. So I'm going to put mine going this way, and it's important that the stems come towards the center of the wreath. We don't want it like that, and we don't want it like that. We want it to come down like so, and then we're going to take our wire and bind the stems. And it's really important that you pull the wire very tightly. We don't want it to be too loose. I usually do it twice, but if you want it to be extra secure, you've got loads of wire, you can go around a 3rd time, and that's it attached. You can then still move it around if it's moved a little bit. I'm going to take another cluster now and do exactly the same. Add in a bit of pine this time. The advantage of kind of doing all your clusters before is that you can obviously make sure that if you want to have sort of like the pink Gypsophila going all the way round, you would know, you would be able to do that. But I quite like just making it up as I go. So with the pepper berries, you can just add them on like this. Okay, they're quite heavy and they will hang slightly. I don't mind that. But yes, so they can go on just like this. So we're going to add it on in exactly the same way as the first one. So we're going to bring the stems towards the center of the wreath, but we're going to make sure that we slightly overlap this one with this one, like that. The reason we're doing that is we don't want any of the mechanics to be seen. So we don't want it to be too much overlapped, some people do, because obviously we'll then miss all this lovely arrangement, or we don't want it to be too much like this, and we definitely want to make sure that the stems are coming towards the center and you're not detaching it too high. But we're just going to overlap it slightly so that we can't see any of the mechanics. If there's a bit of moss hanging down, we can always just trim that at the end, and then we're going to bind the stems again, pulling once, twice, and going all the way round. And this same method happens all the way around your wreath. You're going to keep turning your wreath as you go and keep adding them on. So let's take a few bits that are maybe a bit more tricky. So this is a very big one, which again is very usable. You just need to make sure that you arrange it in kind of a nice way. So sort of, I would probably place it about there, so bringing it quite low so that this one doesn't stick out too much. But for kind of little bits like this, what we do is we pop them together so that they make a bigger bit of spruce. Okay, so there we go. All I've done is I've just overlapped these two. I've popped this one behind. So 3 small bits have suddenly looked like as if they were actually joined before. And this is just a great way of ensuring that we're using every single bit from our branch. So just adding on. And then we're going to add it on in exactly the same way. So stems coming towards the center of the wreath frame, and then going round once and going around again. Okay, so I'm now going to put it on a time lapse and add the rest, and then you can just crack on and start creating your own. So when it's time to add your final one in, you're going to add it in exactly the same way, but you want to make sure that you lift up your first cluster, just so that we hide the mechanics underneath it. So lift that one up, pop the stems underneath, and then take your wire and attach in exactly the same way, pulling it around a few times, pulling it really tight, making sure they're all covered. And then once it is, you want to then cut your wire and then just pop the stem, the end of the wire back into the wreath frame to almost create a staple, like so. If your pepper berries snap like so, what you're going to do is you're going to take a long piece of wire and we're going to cut it, and you're going to create a little hook like that. You're then going to place that hook very gently on top of the stem and go all the way around. They can be a bit of a pain, so maybe just support them, support the weight. Wherever you want to attach it, if you want to place it up here, for example, pop it, just rest it on your wreath, and then bind the wire around at least twice, and then push the end into the wreath frame to attach the pepper berries in. Once you have added everything in, it's time to add your fruit. So we have got 4 lime slices and 4 apple slices. I tend to put 2 together, but you don't need to. You can do it singularly. It's done in exactly the same way. So you want to take a really long piece of wire and cut it off. And then if you're doing it as singularly, just do it as so, or if you want to do them double, then just put them next to each other. You want to then take the end of your wire and very gently push it through towards the bottom. So it's like that. And then you want to bring the short end and the long end together. Excuse my very dirty hands, it's the life of a florist. And then you want to twist so it attaches like so. Then wherever you want to place them, let's put them here. You can try to push your wire all the way through the frame, but I doubt it will go through because you've got quite a lot of bits and pieces in there. So instead, part your foliage, take your wire all the way around the frame a couple of times, pulling quite tightly, and then when you've got an end, just push it into the side of the frame, and that will keep them nice and sturdy. You can give your wreath a bit of a shake if you're a bit worried about it to make sure that they are fully secure. And with the apples, you're going to do exactly the same. My wire's got in a knot. So long piece of wire, do it singularly or pop them together. Push through. The apples are more delicate than the limes, so do be careful that they don't tear. Go round a few times. Find a spot that you want to pop them on. I'm going to pop mine here. And then going to go round once, and then round again, and then push the end of your wire into the wreath frame, like so. So the final step for your wreath is to create your bow. So you want to find your green wire and take your ribbon. And the way that I do it is I think it's quite nice to leave a bit of a trail at the bottom. So leave a trail, create a loop, and then pinch in the center, and then create another loop on the other side that's roughly the same size, pinch, and then you want to take your wire and have a short end and a long end, bring the 2 lengths together at the bottom, twist, like so. Decide where you want to place your bow. I'm quite enjoying this year just putting them in random places sort of on the side. I might go up high, so you can obviously put it at the top or at the bottom, but I'm quite enjoying just putting them in slightly different places. And then all I've done is I've pushed my green wire all the way through the frame, bring it all the way through, cut, and then push the staple back into the wreath frame, like so. Then you can have a little play, just because it sort of tends to turn around on itself. And then if you've got a pair of material scissors to hand, you can just trim the ends. Like so. There you have it, there is your Christmas pudding wreath. I hope you have a wonderful time making them. Do ensure that the back of the wreath frame, the moss, stays nice and moist, so keep giving it a good spray. These wreaths are definitely designed to be outside, not inside. So thank you once again for choosing Flourish Sussex Flower School. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas.